Hello, Internet friends. My name is Rich, aka Darth Geekula. I'd like to welcome you to Terrifying Trinkets, a YouTube show in which I look at action figures and collectibles from the horror genre. And Donald Trump is officially the President of the United States. And on a totally unrelated topic, I want to talk about some action figures based on a story that takes place in a post-apocalyptic world. I am talking about the new McFarlane, well, kind of new. They're not that new. Color Tops Walking Dead figures. Now, I don't want to disparage McFarlane Toys. Without McFarlane Toys, you wouldn't have NECA's Ultimate Figures or Mezco 112 or even, I believe, Marvel Legends. And I don't think Toys R Us would have a collector's section. What McFarlane did in the 90s was to start making action figures targeted to the adult collector with, way better sculpts than we'd ever seen before. So he definitely revolutionized toy collecting, modern day toy collecting. However, time has kind of passed McFarlane Toys by. For the longest time, they weren't really doing sort of their horror or Spawn type toys that they got famous for. They were primarily putting out the Sports Picks figures, which were figures based on the NHL, NBA, NFL, I think even NASCAR, which were kind of cool. And I actually did collect those. All the Toronto Maple Leaf hockey figures I did get. Then he eventually got the license for a few other properties like Walking Dead and Halo. And people were kind of excited. Maybe McFarlane's going to go back to making really cool 7-inch action figures. However, he did something weird. He made them 5-inch. So not 3 1/4 scale and not the 6 or 7-inch scale. The two scales, that collectors usually go for. He went for 5-inch. And after a rough start, admittedly, the Walking Dead figures actually got pretty good. They had better articulation than anything McFarlane had done before. Same with the Halo figures. But they were in that weird 5-inch scale, which collectors don't really dig. Some collectors might, but majority of collectors want either 3 1/4 scale or like a 6, 7-inch, and then of course 12-inch collectors for some of the higher end stuff, like Hot Toys. So anyway, I say this because recently McFarlane announced his new Color Tops line, which we're going back to a 7-inch scale of licensed action figure. So this was going to be Walking Dead. There's a Spawn Color Tops figure, and a bunch of video games. So people are kind of excited, but they hoped and prayed McFarlane would actually have these articulated. And again, not that all collectors want a lot of articulation. I would argue the majority of collectors do. And of course, McFarlane listened and did the opposite of that. And these are essentially something straight out of the 90s where they have pretty good sculpts. We'll get into that in a minute. But the articulation is really lacking on these. And as far as what the Color Tops name means, the color top is going to refer to the wave. So, for instance, here is the packaging for Abraham. And you see where it's red on top? This is the red color top wave. So the next batch of figures, I think, are blue or something like that. So that's all it is. It's just a marketing thing. Anyway, there's the package. And on the back, it shows Abraham and all the poses you can get him into. Actually, you can get Abraham into a few different poses because he has a little better articulation, but they just chose to show basically the same pose 3 times. So let's start with Rick, who is my favorite character on The Walking Dead. The figure's not bad. The sculpting is good, but I think the paint is really lacking. It seems like he's missing his eyebrows, so I don't know about that. Again, very little articulation. There is some articulation in the legs. You see a cut joint there and a cut joint at his ankles. But just the way his legs are sculpted, you really can't, there's no real reason to move that leg around. If that even moves. Yeah, I think it does. He does have a cut joint at the shoulder, but it's ugly. So if you want to have him sort of holding his gun out, which is there, he's going to drop his gun. It just looks ugly. It doesn't look natural. If they're going to have him pre-posed, I wish they'd pre-pose him so that his arm was out, but it's not. Also, I think if you're going to do a Rick action figure, I think people either want a classic Sheriff Rick or Sheriff Deputy Rick, or big manly beard and cool jacket Rick. But they gave us something kind of in between. So yeah, again, it's not bad, but the articulation is really lacking. And he does have a ball jointed neck, and you can actually get a lot of personality out of a figure when you have a ball jointed, oh dear God! So yeah, I don't know what McFarlane was thinking. You basically can't move his head unless you want that giant bowling ball that he swallowed poking out of his neck. That is unacceptable. In the realm of things in the universe that are unacceptable, that's pretty far down, admittedly. But in the realm of just action figures, that is at the top of the list of unacceptable. I don't know why they did that kind of tumor there. So basically, you can't move his head. Otherwise, you have that weird thing sticking out. So I would say Rick is probably the worst in this line. Then comes Michonne. Now, where Rick is a little lacking in paint, I think the Michonne figure is great. They have nailed Michonne's likeness. The paint's really good. The sculpting's really good. This is probably my favorite of the color tops. Again, very little articulation. There's a cut joint right there. But again, the way her legs are posed, you're not really going to want to bother moving them. Her arms move a little bit, but clearly she is sculpted to just have one pose. But I think it looks fantastic. I mean, if you're going to have figures with no articulation, they should at least look this good. Even in her dreads look really good, the paint they did. Also, they all come with the same stand that just says The Walking Dead on it. So that is a great figure. Again, it'd be great if she was articulated, but she's not. Then we have Daryl, another fan favorite character. Not bad. The ears look a little big, and it's hard to sculpt Daryl's kind of greasy long hair, so I think they did the best they could. It's not a bad face sculpt. The crossbow looks great. Again, he's got some cut joints on his feet and his legs, and he does have a little bit of arm articulation. There's a cut joint at his elbow. He actually does have ball jointed shoulders, which is good. But again, he's really made to be in this one pose and nothing else. And also, he kind of leans a bit on his stand. That could just be my obsessive compulsive, but Daryl's not bad. He's not bad. And then we have Abraham. So first off, the good about Abraham is the head sculpt. That might even be better than Michonne's head sculpt. I think that is really fantastic. He actually has some decent articulation. I mean, he's got good articulation at the knees, cut joints at the crotch there. The arms are well articulated. So you have a ball jointed shoulder, and you actually get that's pretty good, about 90 degrees, I think, if I know my degrees right. His hand, however, I kind of fix it. His thumb was bent so far back to the point of being ridiculous. I was able to heat that up and make it look a little more natural. But again, this arm is pretty much sculpted to just be at his side like that. And he does come with this, the rocket launcher, and a machine gun as well that I've misplaced, but it was a little warped out of the package, and I tried to heat it up to straighten it, and I completely almost tied it into a knot. So I wrecked the machine gun. That's on me. So now he's going to hold the rocket launcher. The problem with this figure is, it looks like they put his upper torso on crooked. So his legs are straight, and there's no movement in his torso. So inexplicably, they have him wearing this sort of officer's jacket that he found. He may have worn this for one whole episode, maybe an episode and a bit. But he just put it on almost ironically. So why on earth McFarlane chose to have Abraham wearing this jacket? It's not iconic. It's not even, the rocket launcher is kind of an iconic scene. But he didn't even use the rocket launcher. Daryl did. The thing I can come up with is they had done a 5-inch Abraham figure not that long ago. So maybe they wanted it to look different. Although the Michonne and Daryl figures basically look like their 5-inch counterpart. But maybe the Abraham was more recent, so they wanted to have him in a different look. Yeah, I don't know. So it sounds like I don't like these figures. And if I had done a list of my worst action figures of the year, this Rick would have been on it. Mainly because of his giant tumor on his neck. But I love The Walking Dead, and I like this scale more than the 5-inch scale. So I'm going to keep getting them. Hopefully we get another Rick that's a little better. I know that Carl and Jesus and Negan are all coming. Hopefully we'll get like I'd love to get a Glenn and a Carol, and a few others. But yeah, I just again, I don't want to talk bad about McFarlane. Us modern day adult toy collectors owe him a lot, but he just has not gotten with the times, and most collectors want some articulation. Imagine NECA doing Walking Dead figures. Not that they're super articulated, but they have a good range of articulation and sculpt. That would have been great. But anyway, we have these McFarlane color tops. I don't hate them, but I don't love them like I wish I did, which is the story of my life. Okay, guys, that's it. If you are a big fan of The Walking Dead and you can find these at a decent price, I do recommend them because there's just not a lot of Walking Dead figures out there. There's some higher end stuff that are 12-inch, that are a 12-inch scale, and these is pretty much it for action figures. All right, guys, that's it. Until next time, I really hope that I will see ya.